How you doing today?
Great, great.
Mm.
Great fan of your site.
Oh,
And yeah, yeah. And thank you for the good review you gave us for Thar. Yeah,
yeah, no,
yeah.
no. That was a great film. Really great. Yeah, because I think we spoke for Jug Geo a few months ago. That would have been now. If I'm right. And that was so it was great to catch up with you again today. I mean, of course, The Night Manager. I mean, this is based on a novel, and there was another kind of recent TV adaptation here in the UK. So I'm just interested, when you sign up to a project like this, what do you draw on? Do you just go on the script that you have, or do you read and watch kind of previous iterations and use an amalgamation of everything available to you?
I think it's an amalgamation, and obviously the story first of all has to appeal to you. The role has to be has to hit you at the gut, and you go with your instinct. And of course, who are the filmmakers, the production company, the platform, all these things, and you have to tick all those boxes one by one. And of course, the adaptation. How well have they been able to crack and adapted it? What we feel will be relatable and adapt, to be and consumed by this part of the world. Yeah.
Because I read that you said when you first took this on, you felt quite sort of nervous. I just wondered, is that quite a normal reaction for you? Even someone with your experience, do characters and projects still make you feel nervous?
I think anything which you have never done, and even if you have done anything, I think it might be, at least experience is not there are advantages, but there are disadvantages also. So obviously, sometimes the advantages, the disadvantages are more, and then the advantages of doing something which is where you're putting, trying to sink into the teeth of character, and doing a show which has already been done, a book which is revered and people have loved the book. So obviously there's extra responsibility. Then how will the people relate to it in India or this part of the world? So all these things come to your mind, and of course that's the reason that you're tentative, you're anxious, you're nervous, and then you use all these. They're not negative points. I use it positively
Yeah.
to even work harder and do my best to my capacity and to my ability. With the support of the team.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, I mean, do you think that in some ways feeling that kind of anxiety or nervous energy is quite a good thing? Because it might be, it's even more scary, I suppose, if you don't get nervous.
Anxiety now these days been used very, but of course, yeah, there is a certain kind of energy, a nervous energy, which I at least I can call that where I am concerned, and that's it's very internal because it's acting is of course it's a very internal kind of you know uh, you work internally, you work with yourself, and of course you do all kinds of research, you read, you see, you watch, you listen, and and what's written on the page, all these things are there. But it's a very it's kind of it's like an internal sport. It's like shooting alone or chess, and internally to get the character. Then ultimately, then you come in the playground, and then the entire team is there to support what you have achieved, and try to make it as real, as interesting, as exciting, as exciting for the audience to watch.
I mean, like, this is such a brilliant thriller. I mean, deep into the world of kind of espionage. But what always attracts me to John le Carre's work is the characters. Is this, do you think, despite being a kind of genre piece, is this a character story for you?
Obviously, I will look first from that point of view.
Yeah.
See, because of course, who's not a fan of his work, and his characters are really brilliantly written. It might be um, the character which Tom Hiddleston did of Pine, and and Cocky, and of course Rupa. These are all three great characters written by him. And to anybody who would do anything to do with these kind of characters, they're fantastic characters, very well written, very well edged out, and I think no. And if you get an option to do it, why not? And of course, it helps because it's been written by the great guy, the legendary writer, and it was produced by them also. Like Ink Factory, it's produced by them, so it makes it even more exciting because they've done the show and they've given us the responsibility, to do it. So looking at the character, there is and you, Laurie, whom I'm a huge admirer from House, and of course he did, he's phenomenal in the show also. His presence, his voice, his charm is, and he's done a lot of theater. So there's so much to take from his his the way he's done the role and other roles also. He makes very, you just cannot take your eyes off him, when you're watching him, and eyes and ears,
Yeah.
So yeah. So how do I, live up to that expectations? So I've tried to do what I could do, because we're two different people, do different faces. So, and of course, I have a, there are certain, I've been doing conventional leading man roles, not many gray characters, but completely characters which are very, very positive, very sacrificing, very patriotic, family man, best, the best son, the best husband, the best wife, father, the best, everything I've done, ideal, not the best, but the ideal. And then suddenly I do this character who's supposedly supposed to be the best, worst man in the world. So it became equally challenging for me, because that's the kind of expectations people have from me, to play a conventional leading man. And they've been watching me and seeing my films in the last 40 years doing that.
Yeah. I mean, can you talk a bit about Shelley? I mean, you've called him evil in plain sight. Do you think that's what makes him so menacing, that he's amongst us?
No, I find him very charming. I find him he's a family man, and and of course he believes in what he's doing. He loves it. He's come up from scratch. Like the way we have developed the character, that he started as from a suburb of Mumbai, started doing small businesses and come up the hard way. And really, so there is a backstory which we all try to create for Shelley. And then he has his best friend, who are childhood friends. That's Cocky's character, which is, we call him BJ in our film. And then they build a business, and slowly and steadily he becomes one of the biggest arms dealer from this part of the world. And of course, now he's dealing with not only his own nation, but he's dealing with different nations. And he is a businessman, and he feels there's no bigger business than being an arms dealer. The more the war, the more the battles, the more money he makes.
Yeah.
So it's power, money, all these things are there, and he does it with a lot of love, and a lot of passion, and he believes in it, and he enjoys. It's like a game for him, and of course he can see that ultimately, which makes him more interesting, that he can see, that the end is doom, ultimately, because how far will he go? And he's got away so many times, somewhere he knows one day will come when, where it's going to end. And it's going to end. These kind of characters, they know the end is never going to be the same. Not be going to be that he's just sitting down, relax, and playing with his grandkids, and and farming, or and playing with the animals or children, and he dies peacefully. He never imagines that. He knows the end is going to be quite gloomy. He can see it coming, but he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to. But still, it gives us, when he becomes edgy and doesn't want to trust anybody, where slowly suddenly he comes to know who's the mole. He's trying to find the whole mole, and he knows who the mole is, and just becomes more and more exciting, and as it progresses, and so we try to make the arc accordingly. Yeah,
I was going to say, because you always know the end when the character doesn't know the end. And so you have to kind of, when you're playing a role, you have to kind of rid yourself of that knowledge. Is that quite a challenge in some ways?
No, yeah, when you love your work, you love acting, nothing is a challenge. You just enjoy it, go and enjoy it, have fun. The more the challenges are, the more exciting it becomes. And of course, when you have, because when a filmmaker or a studio throws this kind of role to you, first, obviously, you question yourself, why me? I always ask the director and the filmmaker, I said, why me? I said, you can cast, there's so many people better than me who are more menacing and have better presence, better personalities. Why are you casting me? then obviously I like to hear why they want me and what it is, and then that also gives me a little bit of the energy to work harder. Okay, they believe in me more than I feel I can do it, so I work even harder and try to fulfill their expectation, what they have about me.
Because I was going to say, when you sort of tap into, you mentioned obviously that the other characters you played present maybe more ideals of kind of like of humanity, but this is the more kind of
But internationally, people like to see me in these kind of characters. I've noticed that.
yeah.
Like I've done my most of the work which I've done. I've done very less, but I got really a lot of appreciation, a lot of love, and from the peers of the international fraternity of films, and from the critiques also, and of course, in this part of the world also, they appreciated my work. It might be Slumdog, or it might be Mission Impossible, and of course, in 24, I play the president of a nation which is supposedly to be Iran, and we call it Kamistan, but actually he's an Iranian president, and he's liberal, and he wants to have a peace treaty with America, and so it starts in the UN, and so that was also very exciting to play that role, somewhere where he is positive, but everybody thinks he's not, to a certain extent.
Yeah. But I mean, in regards to playing characters a bit like Shelley, where you have to tap into your maybe darker sides of your kind of psyche, can it be quite cathartic? Do you learn anything about yourself?
Everybody's got a dark side to him, everybody's got a different kind of all kinds of, at least every human who I feel, or a person who has wants to lead an exciting life, has many shades to his life, many characteristics, many emotions, many light side, dark side, humorous side, funny side, generous side, emotional side, sensitive side, evil, jealousy. All these streaks are there in that person, and obviously because of he obviously is not going to use it in real life, but they're there. And so we as an actors, it's like a catharsis for us, so we get an opportunity to to play out those things which are there within us, and we dig out and when you see it on screen with the help, support of the team and the writing, it's very exciting to see, and people getting convinced that, oh yeah, you feel that threat, and you feel that that quality which is coming together. And if that happens in our show, it'll really make me happy when they see Night Manager. I hope they find me as they get, at least I should be able to sway them, and to not make it very stereotypical, and make it a little more exciting. Where is he going? Is he really, doesn't look like evil. He looks very positive. He's a family man. He loves his son. He loves his friends. He's loyal. But still, where is he going? They should not be able to see it. It's not the way. That's the way I feel it becomes more exciting for the audience. Okay, they can't see, okay, and they can't believe that this person will reach to that level. They imagine, but still they're slightly unsure. That's the way, and that becomes quite exciting.
Yeah, I love characters like that the audience feels they can never quite get second guess or understand. But do you as an actor, do you always need to understand them? In some ways, can the characters even have secrets from you?
Like in the past, yes, of course, there have been characters which I've done, because which to a certain extent, when I go, and to be honest with you, and no matter how much you work, no matter how much prep you do, how much homework you do, you discover it while doing it also more and more, and then you keep on adding those layers. So yes, of course, there are certain times where you feel there are certain secrets this character would have which he wants to share, but he cannot, but he keeps it with himself. And it's fun that he's keeping it himself, but it's completely, those tracks are running in his mind, so it becomes exciting. Yeah, of course, yeah, there are certain characters, like for example, when I did Slumdog Millionaire, where I played this character who is a host, and obviously nobody knows where he's going. It had his all kinds of shades, and of course, in Mission Impossible, you knew to a certain extent, because there was limited screen space, so I had to play it in such a way that it is, in a way, written very stereotypical, but I tried to add as many layers as possible, and I had a little bit of humor to it and fun to it. So I am mentioning these two films because obviously your your site on your is been as watched and read everywhere, and so I said I must say that. Of course, in India also I've done characters which are which are which I did a film called Malang lately, and then which had these gray areas and dark shades in the characteristics, and I got a lot of appreciation for that. Then of course I did Thar, which was very very positive, where this cop is there who is to a certain extent he's done everything right in his life, but he's not got his due, and now he's going to retire in a few months, and then he has this last where he wants to prove himself. And then, of course, Jug Jug Ji was a complete family film. You've seen the film, I'm sure.
Yeah, I
So
enjoyed
all
that.
kinds of, I've dabbled in all kinds of films, and so I can mention, but the interview will go on and on. So if you want me to mention any of the films which are your favorite films, or you want me to speak about the characters which comes to your mind, I'm ready to speak about it. Yeah.
Such an illustrious career. It's just such a myriad of characters. It'd be great to chat about. But I just wanted to ask, actually, because there's not too much longer left, about collaborating on this project with Aditya Roy Kapur. And I mean, has it reached and what that kind of experience was like? But also, has it reached a point where you must have worked with so many of your favorite peers and talented actors on your wish list? Is there anyone still remaining you'd love to dance with on screen?
My second, I did Malang with him, and now this is the second time I work with him, and I feel this will be a turning point in his career, and he's done a wonderful job. He suits the role. He's done it very well, and I feel the show wouldn't be what it is, and matter of fact, everyone in the show. There's Saswata Chatterjee from Bengal who's done a great job. There's Ravi Bail. There's Sobhita. There is Tillotama, who's a fantastic actress who's playing the role which was done by a great actress who who's the Oscar winner, and so and of course I had a lot of actors huge like to work with nationally and internationally, and it's fun to work with young directors, young actors, young writers, and they make me feel young and they make me relevant, and when I work with them, yeah.
Because I mean, obviously, this series is showing on Disney+Hotstar. Do you think it's quite an exciting time for projects being made around the world? It's now reaching so many homes through kind of streaming services. I mean, like 10 years ago, a show like this I might not have been interviewing you for, but it feels now there's a newfound accessibility. Is that quite exciting for you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. With 200 countries, it's going to start streaming, and it's great for all of us. For creators, for directors, for audition actors, for writers, all of them. It's fantastic. If you have something, you made something interesting, and if it can resonate all over the world, it's phenomenal. Otherwise, when I made Gandhi My Father, a film which I produced, I was myself carrying those tins to all the festivals. I went to, and I went to Cannes, I went to, and London. We tried to pitch it to so many Venice, so many of these festivals, but but the film was rejected by all the festivals. So we had to go from one festival to the other, and then you go to these agents who could help me sell the film so that the film gets the right. Then I went to Sony Classic, I went to Fox Searchlight. I tried to sell it everywhere, but nobody bought the film. Nobody was interested because they felt, how do we market the film? So then you just go ahead, make the film, do your best, and your dreams are big, and you want the film to be seen all over the world. It doesn't happen, then you move on to the next, and that's what I've done. And obviously, earlier that was the journey you had to take. You had to depend so much on word of mouth, which was slow. Now the word of mouth is faster, so it reaches to people very fast. Because because of the social media, in a few seconds and in a few hours, everybody knows there's a great show on the platform. Otherwise, it should take time. You should release a film in small centers, then to the cities, or sometime in the city, in a few theaters, then have go for a carpet bombing, bombing, like release it many more prints. So there were different strategies, which was to release a film and to get eyeballs all over the world. But things are better now for us, which is fantastic. The streaming is a kind of a renaissance, kind of a revolution for the consumers, as for the people who are telling the story.
And just very quickly before I do go, because you mentioned about having to travel with the movie before, sort of taking it to Cannes and Venice. That sort of seems to symbolize you as an actor, I think, someone that's always just kind of persevered and that has so much fight. Do you think that's what allowed for you to still be going so strong in this industry? Is that kind of that ability to just never give up?
No, matter of fact, that's what I've always done. When I believe in something, I believe in a story, I believe in an actor, I believe in a writer or director or a filmmaker or a script, I give my everything. I'll go to any extent to see to it that the film flies. I do my best even after the release, and then everybody gives up, but I keep on till I know now I've done my best. Now let me move on to the next, but I do my best. There are so many of my films. Some films have been hugely successful, where they had a certain kind of love from everywhere, and certain films were great films, good films, but found love after 20 years, 30 years. Like film like Lamhe and Nayak were wonderful films. There was smaller films which I've done, and like 1942, A Love Story, Parinda. That time they got love, but not as much as what they're getting now.
Yeah.
So there are films which have longer legs. So for me, I think it's better to do a good film, which sometimes doesn't do well, rather than doing a very bad film. And if it doesn't do well, then the damage is even much bigger for anybody who's attached to the film. Yeah.
Well, I think The Night Manager will fall in the good camp because it looks wonderful. But thank you. Yeah, sorry.
I hope and I pray and I think it will. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a real pleasure speaking to you again. I'm hoping maybe one day our paths will cross again for a future project, because you've got so much wonderful stuff still to come. I'm brilliant. Thank you. Cheers. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys.
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey!